Earlier this week, I made a video about my journey to becoming an amateur musician over the period of 16 years. The only thing I've done longer in my life, other than like eat and breathe and stuff, is use and play with cameras and make movies and take pictures. So I kind of wanted to walk through a quick history for a very specific purpose, because I have a super special delivery today that's a genuine unboxing that I'm really excited about. But before I do that, kind of wanted to give a little bit of history. This camera right here is the camera that I used for most of my formative movie making early to mid to late teenage years. It's a Sony Handycam. It's got the nice flippy screen. It's an 8mm camera. It's not digital. This thing lived with me throughout high school. This kind of set the standard for what a practical functional camera should be, even though it's an 8mm analog camera. This little guy was my first digital camera. It's not high definition. It's still got a nice flippy screen. It's another Sony Handycam, but it also still took tapes, took the mini DV little tiny tapes, and then you could import those in real time to your computer, which means that if you filmed something that lasted 28 minutes, it would take 28 minutes to import into iMovie 1.0. But still, the idea of getting footage onto a computer to edit, it's amazing. That was a huge breakthrough. For a long time, I just kind of didn't make a lot of my own stuff. And then the whole DSLR revolution happened, and I had T2Is and 60Ds and kind of went through that whole Canon DSLR phase. And then for the last several years, the Canon 6D has been my main camera that I love to film and take pictures with. And this is a genuinely outstanding camera. Well, there's two problems. One is there's no flippy screen, which the new 6D does have, but that's really hard, even not just for taking photos of yourself, but if you're filming down low or up high, having that tilt screen is kind of a necessity when you're by yourself. There's also no autofocus on this. And of course, as anyone who is or was a Canon shooter knows, there's no 4K on this. But does 4K even matter is a great question to ask. And for a long time, literally up until a couple months ago, my answer was not really. Most people don't have 4K TVs yet. 4K content can be difficult to manage because the file sizes are huge. But that was until I decided to upgrade my GoPro to the GoPro Hero 5, which the reason I did is because it has a screen on the back so you can actually change the settings in camera. But this little camera shoots in 4K. And as soon as I started working with 4K video from a tiny little camera like this, it became apparent that 4K was significantly better than 1080. Even if you're still delivering or exporting in 1080, it just looks better. It's crisper, it's clearer. And then the fact that you can work in 4K or export in 4K, it really does look better, and it gives you more options in post-production to crop and zoom in to your footage. That led to, when I got my commercial drone license, I wanted to have my own drone. So one of the most popular drones for the last year or so has been the DJI Mavic, which has this tiny little camera, and this tiny little camera shoots in beautiful 4K. There's a little bit of work you got to do in the camera settings to get it to really shine, but you can get just the most unbelievable footage out of this 4K camera. And so I had this 4K drone, had this 4K GoPro, and then I was shooting everything else with this 60D that was 1080, so this beautiful giant camera was actually dragging down the quality of everything else. As kind of a frustrated Canon user who's waiting for a genuinely good 4K option like a Sony A7S, but with Canon lenses, I decided to branch out into Sony, and so what I've been using for pretty much everything is the Sony RX100, and that's what's filming this right now. The Sony RX100 is a newer camera to me, but so far it is my favorite camera that I've ever had. It completely changed my opinion on not having to use something like this to get good footage. It changed my opinion on 4K, it changed my opinion on autofocus, on flip out screens. This camera was genuinely revolutionary, not only in my workflow, but also just in my perspective on modern technology. Because with this camera, I can just set it up, share ideas, and I'm done. So, today, what I'm unboxing is my newest Sony camera that's part of this journey. Okay, this is a Target box, but it's not from Target. I'll explain that in a second. Here it is. This is my newest Sony camera. Boom. Okay, so the story behind this is kind of crazy. What this is and what you might recognize, this is not actually the latest and greatest camera from Sony. This is a Sony F35 8mm Handycam from 1988 or 89. This is the exact model of camera that was the first video camera I ever saw in my life, I ever used in my life. This is the camera that hooked me on movie making, on animation, on self-expression, on storytelling. This is the most influential camera in my entire life. It led to my hobbies, my passions, my friendships, my career. My entire life is based around a story that started with this camera. So look at this. This is brand new, straight from 1989. It is literally like I went into the store, I guess it would have been Circuit City at the time, and like took it off the shelf right now. Really excited to see how this works. I've never done an unboxing video before, so bear with me. This is crazy. Like, look at this. This is exactly, if you had gone to the store in the 1980s to buy this camera, this is exactly your experience. Like, even the instruction manuals are still wrapped. These went into their packaging years before I was in kindergarten. Look at these instruction manuals. Look at these accessories in this styrofoam. Everything is still exactly as it's been for nearly 30 years. This camera just missed its entire opportunity to be used. Here we go. Look at this. Oh my God. Wow. Oh my God. Look at this guy. It's beautiful. This is beautiful. I've got some work that I need to take care of, and I'm getting ready to go out of town for a couple days, but this thing is blowing my mind. This is the exact same camera that I saw like my parents and grandparents using when I was a kid that I just wanted to grab and play with. This is the same, like looking at this record button and remembering how many times I used to like double press it to do my stop motion movies. This one has been in a box for 28 years. So I'm very curious to see if it works, and if it does, I definitely actually want to use it and shoot some footage with it for fun. This is an important part of my personal like history and my personal story. Going from a camera like this, or a camera that can fly and shoot 4K high definition video, this was the camera.